What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I would like to say that I really do hope that this is the last time that I have to address this. I've had yet another person to accuse me of spreading fake news regarding my video on Kratom related sort of deaths. Okay? And I get this relatively often from people who are not familiar with my channel, and they'll come across my channel, they'll hear one video, make some sort of assumption about, what my stance or my subjective opinion is surrounding Kratom, and then they'll leave a comment, "Stop spreading fake news, that's not real, it's not really harmful," or just whatever it is they'll say. And so I'm used to that. But this particular person has been a subscriber of mine for a while, and so I thought that they knew kind of what I stood for, which made it a little more like, okay. I just want to say once and for all, nobody out there can prove that these Kratom related deaths are fake news any more than I can prove that they're not fake news. Okay? We all are subject to media, what we learn from media. And I'm not just talking about social media. A lot of times these days when you say the word media, people initially tick off to social media. Well, you can never believe what you read on social media. No, I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about all outlets of media, right? And the places where I found these articles about people who have passed away from Kratom use or Kratom toxicity, this isn't social media. This isn't Facebook or Instagram or, some random person on Reddit, trying to say, well, so-and-so passed away from this, passed away from that. No, these are actual, legitimized news agencies, right? Now, I'm not saying that if it comes from a news reporting agency that it's the gospel and you can just assume that everything they say is true, but just want to be clear, where I got the information is straight off the news. This isn't off of Facebook or Instagram or anything of the sort. And I want to be clear too. I said multiple times in that video that a lot of these instances where Kratom was listed, post-mortem as one of the main causes of the death, in a lot of these cases, those people were also using other substances and also had other substances in their systems. Okay? But there is a truth that people just, I don't know if it's just because they're Kratom users and they just want to defend it, or they're ready to die on that hill. You know what I mean? But there are people who just absolutely refuse to concede to any possibility that there's ever been a person out there who died from Kratom use and Kratom use only. And there was a woman who contacted me on my channel and said that her 22-year-old son passed away from Kratom, and it was Kratom toxicity, and the autopsy showed nothing else in the kid's system except Kratom. Now, was he taking ungodly amounts of Kratom? Maybe so. I don't know. I didn't ask. I didn't feel like it would be the appropriate thing to ask a grieving mother who I went on her channel, and literally she had probably 30 to 40 videos. Every one of them were videos involving her son and her son's death, and pictures of him, a young 22-year-old kid, handsome little kid. It was really sad to see. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not shitting on Kratom, because if you take and compare the two, Kratom, and fentanyl, or kratom and heroin, or even kratom pain pills, whatever it is. There is no comparison, right? The amount of deaths related to kratom use in comparison to other traditional, types of opiates. I know, before you jump in the comments, it's not technically an opiate, but if it acts on the opiate receptors, it's basically an opiate. So I'm sick and tired, literally sick and tired of that whole song and dance from people spamming my comments every time I mention, about it being related to it's not an opiate. Listen, I'm not talking about what it is pharmacologically. Is it pharmacological? No. Pharmacologically, I'm not talking about its pharmacological makeup, okay? I'm talking about how it reacts and interacts with your brain. It's an opiate, okay? I don't care what anybody says. It's a partial agonist as opposed to a full agonist like some of the stronger opiates, but nonetheless, still gives you the same good feelings, still, increases that dopamine. It still has an opiate-like effect to it. So it's an opiate, right? But what I was saying was, let me be clear about something here. I'm not saying it's bad or it's worse than anything else is. And, of course, someone's health should be taken into consideration. And if a person has really poor health and they're taking a bunch of kratom every day, I'm sure the toxicity factor can amp up quicker. Okay? And I'm sure it's true to be said that, like the 22-year-old kid, by example, the mother swore that there was no other substances found in his system other than kratom. This is a healthy 22-year-old kid. Well, could he have just been taking ungodly amounts? Absolutely. Absolutely. He could have been taking ungodly amounts. But the problem is you have a lot of young people out there that don't know what their bodies are capable of handling. Okay? And that can be said with anything. So I'm not trying to set kratom apart and say that it's just this horrible thing and this and that. And people will come in and spam my comments. Alcohol kills yada 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 people every year from not only drunk driving but people dying of liver cirrhosis, and you're on here talking about kratom. That's because I don't ever talk about alcohol on here. It's not about comparing apples and oranges here. That's not what this channel's about. There's two different things, right? And for me to sit here and argue that somehow kratom is more harmful than alcohol, I mean, it's just silly. For one thing, I don't believe that's true. Secondly, that's not what my channel's about. So I'm just getting irritated with people spamming the comments, thinking that I'm just on here just, trying to give kratom a bad name and making it, they make it sound like I'm trying to make it sound like kratom is just this horrible thing and you shouldn't take it because it can kill you. I mean, a car wreck can kill you. Anything can kill you. And again, I'm not now trying to jump on the other side of the fence and say it's not dangerous, but, my talks on here related to kratom have always been way more about the mental component and how it can wreak havoc on you mentally and emotionally if used, regularly, consistently, right? That's kind of always been my thing. Now, I do think there are some long-term negative physical effects to be experienced by people who use it for a long period of time, ongoing, chronically, right? I do believe that, just like anything else. But people are so quick to, try to somehow justify the kratom use, I guess because they're kratom users, which is fine, but to somehow justify the kratom use by giving me examples of all of these other things that are harmful. We all know fentanyl is harmful, guys. We all know fentanyl kills a bunch of people. We all know that alcohol is extremely harmful and that it kills a bunch of people, not just through DUIs and drunk driving accidents, but through, again, people killing themselves, drinking themselves to death, alcohol toxicity, liver cirrhosis, ruining their kidneys. I mean, that's just, yes, for the final time, yes, you are right. I get that. I'm not trying to compare Kratom with any other potentially dangerous substance. And I would also be remiss to say that the danger that a substance presents in all cases has to do with a lot of different factors. How much you're taking of it. You know, if you're swallowing 200 capsules per day, obviously that's going to be more detrimental to your health, not only emotionally and mentally, but physically, in the short term and the long term, than it would be if you're a person just taking a few grams a day here and there. All of those things matter. If you have a morbidly obese person with type 2 diabetes and all kinds of other health issues, has had a heart attack, is at high risk for stroke, all these other things, and then this person starts consuming Kratom regularly on a daily basis, yeah, they're probably going to kill over dead from it a lot quicker than a somewhat younger, healthier person. It's just the way it is. I agree with that. I'm not disagreeing with that sentiment. Okay? So I just kind of get tired of having to defend myself on this shit. I just want to be clear, just because I'm making the comments that I'm making, and just because I'm saying what I'm saying regarding Kratom and what Kratom, you know, the potential effects that it can have on people, you've got to understand that that does not mean that I think it is better or worse than anything else that's out here. It's just what I talk about because it's my drug of choice. It's just my weakness. So I talk about Kratom. I don't really talk about alcohol on here. I don't really talk about fentanyl on here. I've never used fentanyl. I don't talk about heroin on here. I've never used heroin. You know, I talk about the stuff that I know about. All right? And I, again, just want to be clear. These people coming on here and saying that, oh, that's fake news about people dying from Kratom. Prove it. Prove it. I want to see you prove that that is fake news, because you can't prove that that's fake news any more than I can prove that it's not fake news. We are all subject to what we see in these news outlets, on these articles, and unless you knew the person personally, I can't really take what you say and say, okay, well, it's fake news then. Okay, I got it. No, you weren't there. And even if you did know the person, you probably weren't there when they were taking whatever sort of Kratom product they were taking. So you don't know what caused them to die. You don't know what sort of, you know, health, negative health conditions they may have had, or poor health conditions they may have had prior to using the Kratom that could have caused them to pass away. You don't know any of that stuff. You don't know any of that stuff. So I'm subject to learning about this stuff just the way you guys are. Okay? And I'm not saying that Kratom's any more dangerous than anything else is. In fact, I'd say it's probably less overall. There's certainly been less deaths related to Kratom than there have been other things like fentanyl, alcohol, you know, all these other substances. But also, too, Kratom's not really been in the picture as long as a lot of this other stuff has. So there's so many things to consider regarding this, and it's such a layered topic, right? It's like an onion, just layer after layer after layer after layer. But I just want people to understand kind of what my particular subjective viewpoint is on this. And my viewpoint is not that Kratom is just this horrible thing, but my purpose on here is to raise awareness about different aspects of Kratom. Not just Kratom, but different aspects of Kratom products, adulterated products, where they're taking these alkaloids from the Kratom plant, and then they're isolating them and then making these really strong derivatives like 7-hydroxy and MIT45s and all that. That's my purpose on here, is trying to create awareness for those things so that people can have a better general understanding and they don't find themselves in harm's way or find themselves in a situation where they could be one of those rare people that ends up passing away from something like that. You know, and listen, it's rare. It's rare that it happens. I'll say that for all the people out there that are simping for Kratom and Kratom products, that jump in my comments and lambast me for supposedly, you know, speaking out against Kratom and all this. I'm saying to you, the whole Kratom death related thing is rare, and there are caveats in certain instances where some of those deaths, people were taking other things, so it's really hard to know whether it was actually the Kratom or whether it was actually this or actually that. But there are instances where people have passed away and it was only Kratom found in their system. Now, if you want to just continue to be a simp and continue to be in denial about it, you are perfectly welcome to sit over there and tell yourself, if it makes you feel better about continuing to take Kratom, that, oh, well, that person probably had a bunch of health problems. Oh, well, that person had a heart problem. That's why it caused them. You could be right, but you could be wrong. And it could have just affected them in a negative way. And there could be other people out there that get affected in a negative way by it. And we'll never know it until they take it. Or maybe they have some sort of pre-existing heart condition or something that they don't know about. And then they take the Kratom, and then the Kratom ends up killing them. And then it makes the Kratom look bad because that's what pushed them over the edge. You know, but either way, I don't want to see people die from it, period. So I just want people to be careful. I just want people to know and be aware that it may be less harmful, it may be more rare for, you know, fatalities to happen with something like Kratom, but they do happen. I don't care what anybody says. They do happen, and they have happened. Okay? And I just don't want anybody out there to not know, well, could this happen to me? Well, it could. I'm sure any of these people that have passed away, I'm sure those people didn't think that it would hurt them either. You know, just listen. I'm not on either side of the fence when it comes to Kratom, okay? I want to be clear on that. But stop lying to yourselves, guys. You know, stop fighting this thing tooth and nail. You have to, I want to be clear about something. You don't have to protect Kratom the way you're protecting Kratom. People, to your own point, to a lot of those commenters' own point, as many people as alcohol kills every year, do you think that those small amount of Kratom-related fatalities that we see are going to spawn them to completely get rid of Kratom because of those? No, obviously not. So anyway, I just want to talk about it. I gotta go. Love you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you on the next one. Oh yeah, subscribe to the channel if you would like the video. Comment down below. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.